Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Bill Moss, and I'm
And I'm,
with,
I'm Dr. Sean Carey.
and we're with Beyond the Practice podcast, and we're excited to dive into the topic tonight, which is going to be "I don't believe in energy." And the funny thing about this title is, before we hop on a show, a lot of times we have an idea of what the episode's going to be about, and we kind of talk about some of the aspects that we each want to touch upon. And we're friends. Sean and I are friends. So we just were getting into like, how is your day, man? And Sean replied like, "Oh, I felt a little low." You can tell. How are you doing today?
Well, I had a great day. Actually, it was just there was a lot happening. It was very, very up and down.
Yeah.
So it's some big breakthroughs, and then not even big challenges, just lots of shifts today.
Yeah.
And how was your day?
Yeah, it's funny. I was the one who launched into like, "Oh, I was pretty tired." And
Yeah,
I have like 3 pets, 2 dogs, a cat, and a 4.5-year-old. And like last night, my dog tried to like let herself out of the room, and then the cat was meowing, and it was like a crappy sleep.
yeah,
So when I woke up, I'm like, I was feeling low energy today. And then I was able to do it, but I was like, man, why am I so low energy? And then it's like,
yeah,
oh, well, I got kind of crummy sleep last night. So, not believing in energy is an interesting concept because a lot of the conversations when you're talking about health and healing
yeah.
revolve around energy levels, from
Absolutely.
how vital are you feeling, and how ready are you for like what you're facing in your life, in your day. So it's actually a pretty uh you know immediate recognizable thing for each person to assess like how they're doing. In fact, that's what we did before we even started this episode. So
Yeah,
um but belief, in the work that you and I do, belief's like a kind of a big deal, right? It's a big deal.
yeah. I mean, it's something that we hear a lot, right? Like if people back in the day used to say, "I don't believe in chiropractic" sometimes, or and sometimes with energy healing too, we'll kind of run across it. And just like you were saying, we have this energy. There's a physical relationship. It's so obvious with our biochemistry and energy.
Yeah.
But the other aspects of energy are so ingrained into our lives. I think oftentimes people do have a close relationship with energy. They just may be using different words to
Yeah.
describe it. They may talk about vibes, or they may talk about their intuition or their gut feelings or those things. And we're really talking about the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's been this evolution of this assessment of the things that we do for ourselves. How do they help us kind of produce? And if we're looking at the progression of the influence of uh, choices we make on our health, and how it's evolved, it's like, when we were growing up, let's say like 30 years ago, early 90s or late 80s, it's like people weren't as concerned with their energy level, right? Or
Yeah,
how foods affected their productivity, their alertness, their I don't feel like that was even a conversation. People weren't having, really concerned about smoothies and gluten free, and there was a certain population that surely was. But then I think that you look in the early 2000s. I was talking about this with my mother-in-law just recently. It's like when we entered the chiropractic profession, just things chiropractors say, we could do an episode on shit chiropractors say, but it's
yeah,
like there's no better time to be a chiropractor. But kind of like early 2000s or late 2000s, you started, or 2010, you did start to get out of the idea like, I don't believe in chiropractic. And
yeah,
the probably the simplest piece to that is, uh everyone knows somebody who was helped by
yeah.
a chiropractor, right? Like it's just like you can't avoid it where you know somebody. So to say like, I don't know if I believe in it, it would be like you're debunking your friend's experience with the modality. So and now we're starting to talk more directly about energy as well, kind of what you brought. And now it's becoming less and less cool to just be like, I don't know if I believe in energy, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's so well said, and there's so many data points, so many reference points, and well
Mhm.
documented things about people having different healings with energetic healing and these different cultural stories and whatnot. But even if you look at like quantum physics, there's so
Mhm.
much data now as far as energy and how we're really these just giant balls of energy.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and it's true, and that's, we can affect our environment when we walk into a room, as
Mhm.
a being in the service profession, if we want to talk about it from this perspective, is
Yeah,
like we always have my team each day when we're working with people is we have the goal of like when people come in, we can meet them where they are, but our goal is to always bring them up to a new level. If you want to call that vibration,
yeah,
state of being, but we always look to help kind of increase their experience by bringing their energy up for the day, and that can be done in so many ways. But it has to do with our body language, our mindset, our
yeah.
focus, our words, because all of those do create um, the energetic environment that people are surrounded in and experience being in our presence. So,
Absolutely, and it's something we have so much control over too. I think most people don't realize the potential impact they can have on their own energy and others' energy, and how it's something that if you start learning how to raise your energy to higher levels, your connection with your intuition, your ability to connect more deeply with somebody else, your ability to influence the energy field around you in a positive state, all those things can change so dramatically.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you and I are trained in ways to cultivate and kind of protect, if you will, and create sacred space, sacred areas. And, what are some ways you've noticed that, through the tools that you have to help, you know, cultivate an energetic environment? What are some experiences you've personally seen or had? I know we both had
Yeah,
many of these experiences.
I when I first started doing this as a client, I received a couple different sessions with the person who's both of our guide, Jordan Bain with the
Yep.
Modern Mystery School, and I remember getting these sessions done with him, and it was so strange for me because it was something that was so outside of my comfort zone. It was something that I didn't
Yeah.
know how to really describe or compare it to different experiences that I'd had. But there was a part of me that was like, whatever is happening, I feel
Mhm.
really good. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what exactly it is or what exactly is happening, but I just felt really good inside. And
Mm.
it was like this inner feeling of well-being that started just to cultivate inside my being.
Yeah.
So that was probably like the first piece that I was like, oh, I don't know how to put words to it, but something really good is happening.
Yeah.
But for a client level, like as a practitioner, that's something that people comment all the time on when they come into my office. I'm sure it's the same for you. It's just
Yeah.
we take care of the energy and the environment. It's the first thing that I do when I get into my office.
Mhm.
Um, to elevate the energy, there's different rituals that we do, but to pick up the energy so that's very uplifted.
Mm.
It's a high frequency. It's something where when a client walks in, the feeling that I want them to have is to feel safe, to feel cared for, to
Yeah.
feel like peaceful within their inner being. So that's something that's consciously created on a daily basis.
Yeah, um, gosh, there's so much there. I mean, when I first received any of it, you don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah,
I always tell people like the first time I did any type of energy healing work was with you, and it was just because you offered it up, and we shared that on a different episode. And the main thing was I just trusted you, and I, to some degree, was sensing your energy because I had never done any energy healing work because I was always a little adverse to the people that were kind of offering it. And I'm not saying they weren't good people. I'm just saying there was something there that wasn't for me. So even at that time where maybe I wasn't as intuitive or as connected, I was connected to some degree that I didn't want to do it. Right.
yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
I remember after I did a session with you, you gave me like what could happen or what might unfold for me. And I was skeptical to a degree, for sure. But I noticed I had a wedding that I went to like 2 weeks later,
Mm,
2 or 3 weeks within the first month. And I remember just like interacting with total strangers and feeling like completely comfortable. And I had always considered myself a pretty sociable person,
yeah,
except I didn't realize even in those situations, I still didn't feel super comfortable. Like there was a level of anxiety around fitting in and but I found myself like making jokes, having fun, lots of joy. And I was almost like witnessing this new aspect of myself. And I was like, wow, this really feels good in my own being. In addition, now that doing the work over the years in creating an environment where clients come in, I started to notice such a huge difference during the pandemic where the state of the world was like very stressed and unknown, and people would come into my office and they'd like let their guard down and they were accepting, and they'd forget to put their mask on, and they'd go through the whole process and they were like, "Oh my gosh, I totally forgot to do that." And they were really sensitive to the conditions, but they just felt very safe in that environment. And I hear that over again. Like my one of my employees, I don't know if you heard this story, but Ev, who works for me, she brought her kids to come see me in
yeah,
the chiropractic office. And the first time she walked through the doors, she like took a breath and she was like, "When I go back to work, I want to work somewhere like this." And
yeah.
then she ended up coming to work for me. So,
I
uh,
love
it-
it.
yeah,
I have a funny story, that just reminded me of when I first was getting into this work. One of the things I did is I had my office crystal gridded by someone, so it
mm,
just basically makes it a really nice energy in the space.
yep,
And I didn't know a whole lot about it, but I knew it was something that was helpful for the energy. It's like, okay, that can't hurt to have in a chiropractic office.
yeah,
And when that happened, I found myself where I'd be like hanging out at the office on weekends, and I'd be like, if maybe it was, I used to just work Friday morning, um, but like afterwards, and maybe I'd be watching a movie on my office computer. Or I'd find these excuses
huh,
to be at my office because it had this beautiful energy, and I hadn't set that structure up at home yet.
yeah,
And maybe it was like a month or 2 months in, I was like, "Well, wait, why am I here? Like I have a home. I'm supposed to go home." And it just the office felt so good. The energy was so
yeah,
nice. And I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
I should do that for my home too." And then
mm,
then I then I, crystal grid the home, and that fixed
yeah,
that imbalance. But people will like, they wanna be in a space that feels good.
yeah,
And we
yeah.
have the ability to create that externally in the environment around us. We also have the ability to create it internally within us too.
Well, and it's funny if we're talking about the belief aspect of this. It's like you know, if you can we can recognize ways that it was helpful to us.
Mm,
And I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've had many different employees, and I've also had many different like subcontractors who've like worked out of the center space. So my chiropractic office, not so much, but in the center, I've had a massage therapist. I had somebody run some yoga classes back in the day, a couple different therapists, and they're not, they don't we don't like do an orientation of all the things that have been done to this space,
yeah,
but the comments and the feedback from them is always wild. And the feedback from their clients about receiving their services in that space has always been like incredibly positive. Like, I don't know what it is about this place, but
yeah,
X, Y, and Z. And, to see that happen over and over again, and I don't have tons of data points, but it's like, 10 different people that have worked here and they all get the same reports from their clients. At the end of the day, you're like, there's something to all of this. And the
absolutely.
fact that, as a person who works with healing clients, and you're facilitating this experience to help them grow and heal, uh, you kind of want like every advantage to of
Absolutely.
positive energy to help somebody, because um, the negative ego or the the negative self-talk that goes on during somebody's process is can be really hard. And it's nice to
Yeah,
have a space where that can be lessened, because it really is impactful on the results that an individual can achieve and that we can help them achieve, for sure.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I realized was that early on in practice, before I had these tools, before I had a better understanding of energy,
Yeah.
it was like without the understanding, it just seemed like something that just kind of happened. And
Hmm.
then as you start to have more awareness, and then you have tools to shift it, you can really change the experience that people have. You can change the energy.
Yeah.
But I think that when I'd have patients come in, before these tools, like I'd really have to work to kind of lift them up,
Mm.
and I was
Yeah.
using my own energy. Like I was like, I was lifting them up. But it could get draining for me. And then once I started to learn these tools of how to like in a very systematized way, how to uplift the space around me, as well as myself. But it was just like
Mm.
my patients being in a space with nice energy, it really helped them to go to a higher state without so much work from me.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
really relieving and freeing.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how much space influences that, right? And
Yeah.
the comments from people, just what they say based on the environment created. And I think like you said, I noticed the biggest difference before I was, even looking in the energy world or working with any of it. It was like you had to willfully cultivate uh through your presence, like this true like forcing of energy to like get through the day,
Yeah.
um, which some days was very easy, like when things are clicking and flowing and it's easy, but there's some days that it's not. And I definitely noticed I don't take things home with me. Like I just don't have that
Mm.
separation because, and like you said, the home's prepped in a certain way too. But I just don't know what I would do if I didn't have like an energetic practice for myself in working with and in so many people's fields all day long.
Yeah, I don't know how I could really go back either. It was just
Yeah.
it's been such a useful tool, and I think if somebody's listening to this conversation, maybe they're not a chiropractor, maybe they're one of our
Yeah.
patients or clients, or they're just interested in the subject of healing. Like, this doesn't have to be something where you're a chiropractor, you're a psychotherapist, or anything like that.
Mhm.
This can just be like you're a mom, you're a dad, you have a job,
Yeah.
and this understanding of the energy that's happening around you, and
Yeah.
how can you take this state where people are in low energy, maybe there's fatigue, there's difficult emotions, there's more stuckness, like stuck in pain and negative patterns,
Yeah.
that we can literally learn how to become more hyper aware of those things, and then how to elevate beyond those states. And
Yes.
one of the things that's really amazing is to be able to, as you uplift your energy, you uplift the energetic frequency, things change. Like Carl Jung had said that we don't exactly heal from our spiritual problems. We from our
Mm.
these patterns that we have. We rise to a different state where they don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And when we bring that energy up to a higher state, that happens with so many of the different things around us and life, like patients or clients, maybe they're if they were frustrated, they just had a bad phone call or something like that, they can just walk into the space and take a deep breath.
Mhm.
But you can do that at home too. Like if you have a difficult phone call or a difficult day, these are things that can be used by anybody. It's just being open to the understanding and awareness that,
Mhm.
hey, this is something real. And maybe you call it a vibe, or maybe you call it a frequency, or maybe you call it intuition, or
Yeah.
whatever. But we're talking about the same thing, and it's something that can be um, controlled isn't the right word, but something that we can influence in a positive way.
Yeah. And I think what the average person doesn't realize is there are many ways they're already doing it, right? Anyone who has a child, it's like even if you've always hear medical doctors or you hear doctors often refer to like mother's intuition, right? Like who knows the child and their affect and rhythm better than a mom. It like doesn't exist. So, a lot of times we have these gifts, we just don't recognize them in the way that's like, well, I'm sensing energy. Like something's just off about my child, or
Yeah,
they're really excited, or we need to create a calmer environment, or whatever it may be. Like I need to get in sync with this child. And also, like I always use the example of if you've ever looked at an apartment or a home, I mean, people make those decisions oftentimes with the realtor or not based on the
yeah,
features and benefits, but like, how does it make you feel? What's your
yeah,
first energetic impression? And we do that with people. We do that with cars that we're going to buy. And, you can call them sales tactics or whatnot of
Yeah.
experiencing this energy, but it really does matter to people. And I think it matters quicker now than it
Yeah.
used to.
I totally agree with that. I think we could have almost called this episode making the unconscious conscious,
Yeah.
because it's things that people kind of do,
Yeah.
but you can have a much higher awareness, and like that awareness you can bring, like if you're going to buy a new home or move to a new apartment, you have that
Mm,
heightened awareness because
yeah.
it's so important. You can apply that to where, like, how you feel, to where you're
Mm,
going to go to, like on a vacation or things like that.
yeah.
Like looking at the different hotels, how do those places make you feel?
Mm,
That's something that I always do when I travel.
yeah.
And I navigate and direct my life with conscious thought ahead of time. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to go to these places that make me feel good.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, there's an inner guidance that's a lot stronger. And I know even like in a food or nutrition perspective, maybe it's not. I'm just posing the question. Like this is, I never thought about it this way, but maybe it's not that like we're we're so alert. Everything's pesticides and it's so polluted. There that exists, but maybe our intuition on what's good for us and what's not is very much more heightened. That we are more sensitive to the choices more readily and rapidly than per se like back in the day. And I would say yes, because you can tell like how people feel or think much quicker. That interaction happens much quicker. And if you talk to um, people in any profession,
Yeah,
they actually recognize. I've had this conversation with cops, um, and they're like, "Yeah, I can read the situation faster than
yeah,
maybe it was years ago. I could
yeah,
actually scan and understand information quicker." Because we think of so many of our like energetic gifts as being so out there, and if you could see the evolution on a sped up timeline, you'd realize like it's different. It really
yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah, just like we have our, physical senses, we have all these other senses that we can really tap into, that
Mhm.
are right there. There's more knowledge and tools than have been available before,
Yeah.
and people can really tap into that.
I think it's good to remember, like, all of it can be trained,
Oh,
many different ways.
yeah,
Just even meditation alone is like, if you wanna have a greater awareness of your inner world, in relationship to your thoughts and your external world, like, what better way than to, quiet the mind because you can really see what's going on. So, um and again, that's another practice that like nobody when I was growing up, I didn't know one person that meditated probably until I was like 24 or
yeah,
something like that. It just now, plenty of people who've tried it. Why? Because we're probably to some degree, we're trying to manage everything, the complexity of the world
yeah,
in many ways. Yeah.
yeah, and there's, this control piece of the mind, that the mind can get in this hyper controlling state where you're really out of alignment with, a more natural flow of energy, where we're more connected with our intuition and soul and spirit.
Yeah.
And one of the things I see in practice, I think relates to this conversation, is that oftentimes we'll have patients go on vacation.
Mm,
And when the patient comes back from vacation, maybe they were having all these different problems or negative patterns before, and their nervous system and their body is just, the tone is balanced, it's in a state of harmony. They're doing well. And it's like, oh,
yeah.
this because this person relaxed.
Mhm.
They had that time to be at peace and probably meditate and probably sleep in, and do those things to actually take care of themselves in a
Yeah.
different way. And we can directly see that reflection in the body.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing because it allows you to really bring to light for somebody all the factors that influence their energy. As I see that all the time too. Like somebody gets a vacation and they come back, unless maybe what they spend it with their in-laws and
Yeah.
like, extended family members,
Yeah.
then it looks a little bit different. Or they had to put out work fires and something, and somebody who really can't turn it off.
Yeah.
But that is so true. And you can really see that. And that's why if it's being connected to nature,
Yeah.
I know for myself, if I'm not like in nature after a while, I just don't feel the same. And then
Yeah,
when I get that experience, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel more grounded, focused, motivated, um, rejuvenated. And
yeah,
that's definitely become something that I notice. And that's the relationship with the self and your own energy. It's it's good to know like what helps you run better. And
yeah,
I feel like I'm still figuring this out, right?
yeah. And it changes too, you know? Sometimes it's like there's different things that we need to do. Like right now, I'm fasting. I'm on day 2 of a 3-day fast. So my
Nice.
body is just like a little bit different than I have a lot of mental clarity. Um, I feel really good. My body feels really good and clean, but I don't have the same like physical energy that I might have had, 2 days ago. So my work, I took today off from working out.
Mm.
It was just there was a different need for my system today.
Yeah. And even the recognition of like, we talk about the seasons, a lot of times people try to do this aggressive goal setting and physical activity in the middle of like the darkest time of year. And it
Yeah,
just, it never felt right to me. Like I'd always try to do that. And I never felt like ready to go until spring came rolling around.
yeah,
And it's interesting because now I'm seeing these fruits and productivity, and my vitality's been like way higher in the last
yeah,
month than it was before. So I'm starting to notice I need to take it easy during
yeah,
some of those times. And there's so many cycles that influence our energy, like the seasons, the sunshine, how much sleep you had, what you're eating, what
yeah,
you're not eating, what you're thinking, and who you're around, right? That's a
yeah.
huge deal. Um, like, could you imagine if you went back to your life, like when you were 21 years old and you like replugged yourself into like the scenes and the
Yeah,
activities you did? Like, I'm like, oh my God, how did I even function?
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and I think most people function unconsciously with a lot of different things,
Yeah.
and it's but there is this ability to like pre-pave, if you will, to pre-pave more good things that happen by having a high awareness of energy. So
Yeah.
it's like you're preloading positivity into this environment you're going to be in, and into your own mind and emotional field, and then into the different aspects of your day by having a deeper awareness of energy.
Yeah. Yeah. And for somebody who doesn't like really believe in energy, they should just like think back into when they were stuck in like DC or Atlanta or LA traffic. Um
Mhm, mhm.
and like what a
Yeah,
it's palpable like frustration and tension that people experience in
absolutely.
those situations, which is like not fun. I don't love that. Like DC
Yeah.
is probably like my biggest trigger of anything driving through
Oh, yeah,
there.
that is crazy.
So, I mean, there's so many examples of like how that affects us. And people do recognize, this is a really talked about thing. It's like we can think ourselves sick, and that's
Yeah,
not we're not saying you should think yourself well, but it influences your well-being for sure.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, the world of energy is it's so real, and it was not something that I ever, like, thought about before.
Yeah.
But it's something that it is very real by whatever words you wanna call it, but we have such a direct relationship. It's within us, and it's with outside of us,
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
um, whether you believe it or not, it's still impacting your life. But,
Yeah.
being, having, being willing to believe it and opening the door to your awareness, it can really help you in all aspects of life, whether it's your mom or a dad or a salesperson or a doctor. We
Yeah.
had Dr. Brian Martin in the last interview we did talking about how important your intuition is as an ER doctor.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and it's true. Like that's what experience gives you. At
Mhm.
this point in time, like our ability to understand what a client's going through is much different than it was when we were first starting out.
Yeah,
Even though you're like it, if I'm looking at the early parts of practice, there was probably a lot more inner reflection of like, how am I feeling? Am I doing a good job? Am I saying the right things? All this.
yeah,
And now there's none of that. There's all
right,
this like focus on the other person. Are they
yeah,
comfortable? Am I really understanding them? Are we having a
yeah,
connection? Do I know beyond what they're telling me what's going on? So so much more you can do the more you're in the presence of people and working with their own energies. Um, and it also gives like this giant respect of like how much more there is to another person is when
Yeah.
we can start to expand our awareness that they're just a physical body. And I think that's kind of what Brian really did a great job highlighting is like it doesn't matter what healing profession you're in. um Even in the medical, he could see like and always had this, I don't want to say hole, but he had this search for, I know there's more to this than
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that turned out that there's a spiritual aspect and an energetic aspect to that individual, you know?
Yeah. In chiropractic, one of the things, especially at the beginning, I was wanting to really develop this level of proficiency or mastery, like an excellence in the craft.
Mhm,
And obviously, like having mental focus is important, and even visualizing can be helpful.
mhm,
But it was when I started to really connect to this idea of working with energy that I
mm,
think my proficiency as a clinician just took off,
yeah,
because it was that's when we can just merge, if you will, like down to a deeper level between patient and client, and you can share a deeper state of connection about what's going on, like what's going on with this person's emotions, what's going on with their mind, what's going on with the tension in their body,
mm,
and
mhm,
the energy, just tuning into that energy that's around you right now and in this space right now and within you right now, is going
mhm,
to open so many doors for levels of mastery in all aspects of life.
yeah, yeah, I love that aspect. I mean, I 100% have seen how that works together, and, um yeah, it just gives you a whole awareness, surrounding the person and
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah, comparatively. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the, like, the energy of what's going on, like, within our emotions, like, what am I feeling right now? But, like, not just am I feeling sad, or am I feeling, like, angry or joyful or silly or any of those things, but, like, tuning in deeper to that.
Mm,
So if I'm feeling sad, okay, but what's my mind doing? Or if
mm,
your mind goes to a thought, how do I feel inside about that?
yeah.
Like, is this something that happened now or in the past? And
Mm,
we really, like, start directing that energy, or the more awareness we have around what's energetically going on within us, the quicker you can break through old patterns.
mm,
Because you can find, like, oh, I keep getting caught on this emotion. I
yeah.
keep getting caught on this part of my childhood or this situation where I
Yep.
feel like I said the wrong thing. And you bring
Mhm,
that awareness, that light of divinity that we all carry with us, and then that
mhm.
can break the cycle just through awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, and, we've touched on this on other episodes too, but the idea, like, when we're having this understanding of, our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts that are all connected to our state or our energetic level, we can start to see how that shows up in other people. And, there's a lot of people that really have lots of thinking and mental activity, um, that that kind of, I don't want to say gets in the way, but it can kind of like stress people out. They're like really do a lot of thinking about their condition and what they need to do and try to fix it. And they spend lots of their time in the mind. And I think this has helped me to recognize that with people and then have to redirect to like, how are you feeling? What are the little wins?
Yeah,
And get them out of their mind and help the process of letting go because it's really huge. There's a
yeah,
lot of people that are unwell because they're just completely stuck in their thoughts all the time. And they're like, what is the thing? What is the one thing? And they're like, but when you recognize how much we're energetic beings, it's like it's never one thing,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
that totally is. We used to call it in chiropractic, right? This is why chiropractic gets a bad name is like, magic bullets and a hole in ones and
yeah,
things like, one cause, one cure. And it's like, okay, we are our own solution. But there's many factors that make up the microcosm and macrocosm of a person.
yeah,
That makes it a little more complicated, right?
yeah. Yeah, it certainly does, and I think on some level, for people, it's like we're fish swimming around in an ocean, and we don't realize we're in an ocean. There's just this energy around us all the time, being like caught up in these mental thought processes. Like people don't realize that they're doing it most of the time.
Yeah.
They don't realize how caught up they are in that energy, that cycle.
Hmm.
And it's something that like developing that awareness of like, okay, if energy was real, what are those moments that make you feel most peaceful,
Mm.
or most joyous, most loved,
Mm.
most cared for? What were those times? How did that feel within your being?
Mm.
Like even just kind of thinking about it, most people, their systems will start to slow down, they'll
Mm.
relax, their breath will change.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happens with energy is that when we're too in our mind, there's so much happening within us that there's not
Mm.
so much room for that higher inspiration to come in. You
Yeah.
know, there could be the best idea or that amazing new partner or whatever it is, and it's just sitting right up there, but we have this field of mental chaos that's
Yeah.
just uh, interfering with that coming forward because we aren't controlling our energy.
Yeah. That's a great perspective. Yeah. And I know for myself, like if I get to, we go camping a lot, right? And like if I
Yeah,
get into the woods and camping, I cannot believe like the creative thought and connection that starts to just come through by having that shift in the environment.
yeah,
And I really love those thoughts and appreciate it. And in our Western culture, we view like doing and working and all that, but a lot of times some of the best um, ideas and movement in our own lives comes from the stillness,
yeah,
almost always, right?
yeah. And it's so funny how with like little kids are very aware of energy, and
Yeah,
how animals are so aware of energy, and
yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah, it's just it's so real. But as busy adults, we often just block ourselves off to what's directly in front of us and what's directly within us. Yeah,
yeah. That's
it's,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, and to kind of wrap it up, I think one of the main reasons we did this podcast is like the idea of we have this recognition that people that work with other people are coming up against other people's energy, and we want to be able to support and work with them down the road. So, some of the things we plan to do some retreats and workshops and ways, and even release some meditations and things to help
yeah,
people balance their energy, cultivate inner peace, and really manage the fact that you are an energy being and we're working with people that have a lot of stuff. And in this
yeah.
world, you know, we want to help each other to create a better world. And that's one of the best ways to do it. Yep.
Yeah, I'm so excited for all the different things that are coming down the pipeline with this.
Yeah.
And if I could just kind of pose one question for people to
Mm.
end this off of, if maybe you're a practitioner, they're different, or you're just someone listening to this episode, and you have different goals, different things that you want to achieve, and maybe your mind is really engaged about those
Mm.
goals, which is good. But perhaps the blockage is not in your mind. The reason that it's not happening now, perhaps it's somewhere else within you. Like what
Mm.
else could it be? What else
Yeah.
is within you that's not out of alignment to that? And when we start exploring those things, we're very much working with energy, uh, because it's like you're like, oh, maybe there's something in my heart, maybe there's something in my throat. I'm having a difficulty
Mm.
speaking clearly the things that I want to
Yeah.
express. So those other ways are things that if you're willing to open the door to that, it can hyper accelerate you to using that strength of mind to paving forward what you want to pave forward.
That's awesome. No, it's a great way to wrap up. And speaking about energy exchange, we really are excited to continue to share this with you. If you don't mind, take a moment to subscribe to our channel, rate, review. It helps us reach more people, and reach more people and help serve more people so they can live a life of more inner peace and interconnection. So, thanks for joining us once again, and we look forward to seeing you real soon.
Thank you. Have a great day.